And welcome to this week's Confidence Picks here on the channel. I have returned, although I'm about to get Wally Pitt from my son I keep seeing in my inbox. And believe me, there's nobody better to get Wally Pitt by than your own kid. Nevertheless, it's still me. I'm Steve Deace with Aaron McIntyre. Aaron, good to see you, brother. Get us updated. How are the picks going so far?
Well, here we go. So we both had the exact same picks last week, at least the way that they shook out. So we both missed our 6-point pick. You had Penn State at your 6-point. I had USC over Illinois. Hit on 5 and 4, missed on 3 and 2, hit on 1. And you hit your bonus bet, though, of Iowa +8 over Indiana. I missed my bonus pick of USC Illinois under 60.5. That means you pulled ahead yet again. I pulled ahead last week. You pulled ahead this week. You're leading 359 to 353 heading into week, what is it, 6 now?
Week 6 already, yeah.
Indeed. So here are your picks for week 6.
All right, let's start at the top. Penn State, they're a 30-point favorite over UCLA for a reason. I think Penn State's going to end up being overrated again, as we saw. Cannot believe that face plant. But I'm not sure UCLA, Aaron, is going to win a game. So that's my 7-pointer this week. I'm going to put 6 points on Ohio State over Minnesota. Minnesota's a solid program. I just think they're outclassed here athletically. I'm going to put 5 points on Northwestern over Louisiana Monroe, but I'm going to tell you, it's not that confident. It's just I don't know about the other games. I'm only putting 4 points on Michigan over Wisconsin because at some point, there has to be some semblance of pride in that program. They're coming off a bye. Michigan is too, but I have to think if there's any life in that lady yet, this is kind of the bow up spot, right? Michigan's going to play a style of football that, well, I guess old Wisconsin would not have gotten blown out of the building even if Michigan was a more talented team. I'm not so sure about new Wisconsin now, but it just seems to me if there's a bow up spot left on the schedule coming off a bye against a top tier program in the league, this would seem to be it. I think they'll play okay. I still think Michigan will win though. You want to talk about sandwich spots. How about Illinois? Big emotional win after playing USC. They've got Ohio State coming to town next week for Big Noon. And they just go down to lowly West Lafayette. Remember last year, Aaron, Purdue nearly beat them, remember last year. And what was one of the worst Big Ten teams of the 21st century thus far. So I'm only going to put 3 on the Illini. I have no idea Washington, Maryland, who will win. I love Maryland plus the points. You'll see that in a second. But I could see this being, I think this is a field goal game either way. Washington making now the cross-country trip. And then I'm putting 1 point on Nebraska over Michigan State, although this line has moved a lot in Nebraska's favor this week. But I think these teams are kind of similarly constructed. I think they're both weak alongside both sides of the line of scrimmage, and they both have high ceiling talent at the quarterback position. And to me, that's a coin flip. I'm not sure which quarterback comes to play, Aiden Childs or Dylan Raiola. I'll guess because he's at home, it's Raiola, but I'm not that confident. That's why it's only my 1-pointer. And my bonus pick this week, I love Maryland at home, short week, and Washington crossing the time zones. I'm going to go with Maryland at home plus the 6.5 over the Washington Huskies. That's my bonus pick this week.
My 7-pointer is Michigan over Wisconsin. We discussed this a couple of times this week in that, Wisconsin has a good run defense this year. They're kind of hanging their hat on that, which is an improvement over last year for the Badgers. But I just think they don't have an offense. And eventually, no matter how good your defense is, if your offense is not at least giving them breaks, I just think they're going to break down eventually, the defense, no matter how good they are. So I've got Michigan over Wisconsin, Penn State over UCLA. That'll be my bonus pick later on as well. It's not so much of a bounce back for Penn State as it is I have no trust in UCLA whatsoever. They burned me last week. I thought they'd at least have something in them. They're going on the road, yes, across time zones at noon Eastern time. What would it be? 9 o'clock their time, body clock. But I still thought that they'd have just enough talent to outclass Northwestern. Nope, not at all. Speaking of Northwestern, ULM is also really bad. So this is just a play on ULM more than it is confidence in Northwestern. Ohio State over Minnesota. Coming back home, this should be a fairly convincing win for Ohio State, but do not be surprised if it looks pretty much the same as last week's victory over Washington in that they just kind of put this in the lockbox on defense and don't really let Minnesota have a chance. And it looks, like a close score at the end of the game, but it was really never that close. Nebraska over Michigan State is my 3-point pick, mostly because of the steam that Nebraska has enjoyed over those week. Somebody knows something. Or that's just a bunch of Nebraska money coming in. I don't know. Maybe they have all the sharps over there in Lincoln and Omaha. 2-point play is Illinois over Purdue because of that sandwich spot. Great coaching job. Usually, I told this to Mark yesterday. When you talk about great in-season coaching jobs, it's going from like 0-2 to making a bowl game or having a great season at 8-4, something like that. But this was a great in-season coaching job from week to week, going from that just low of lows to high of highs in just 1 week span. But this is a trap game, I think, for Illinois, and so I'm not super confident. And then I've got Washington over Maryland because, Washington had to get up for that big game, that what we thought was maybe going to be a showdown with Ohio State last week, a big emotional upswing, and now you go across 4 time zones and play a team you really don't know what they are or who they are or what they've got. We think their quarterback is really good across time zones, like we said. That's kind of a tall ask, so I think they should be able to get the job done, but I'm not super confident. That's why it's 1-point play. And then my bonus pick, I think Penn State is going to roll over UCLA. Yes, it is on the road. I do think this is somewhat of a bounce-back spot, but this is mostly a severe fade of UCLA. So those are my picks for this week.
I don't know if you saw UCLA is doing a blue out, which is good because Penn
For
State.
all 5 fans.
Penn State also wears a blue. It's a different shade.
Yep.
But since there will be more Penn State fans there than Bruin fans,
They'll stick out.
They'll stick out. They'll still be a blue out. So, all right. Thank you, brother. We'll see you next week right here on the channel. To everybody, enjoy the games.